Hello, everyone, and welcome to our episode of Classical Crossover Magazine interviews featuring the wonderful Kristin Amarie. Kristin, what a treat. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you ever so much for inviting me on the show. I'm honored.
You know, I feel like I've known your voice from many different singles on Spotify, but then it was like, it kept coming and I'm like, who is this person? Who is this person? And then I finally went to your profile and it was just so many beautiful songs. So I just knew I had to reach out to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
So Kristin, one question that we ask everybody is kind of, how did it start for you? Like, were you a child? How did you first get involved in music?
Well, I was always singing from as far, back as I can remember. I would always sing. I used to listen to musicals, like Julie Andrews and whatever came on. I grew up in Norway, so we never really had access to the latest stuff. But
Yeah.
we were listening, like 10 years later than everyone else, but to the beautiful, My Fair Lady and all that stuff. And I was so fascinated with musicals and operas. And my best friend was working, her family was working at the Norwegian opera. And I used to get to go there all the time and be backstage. And I would just sing and make up my own tunes and make up my own little operas and musicals from a kid. Yeah, used to sing to and from school, basically.
I love that because the composing seems very natural to you. Then it just started as you started singing.
Yeah, I just started singing. It was just I made up stories in my head, and then I made songs to go along with it, and I would sing, all the parts, of course. I would be, the boy, then I would be the girl, and the auntie, you know, just continuously singing all the time. Yeah. And up high, 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 and my grandma would used to say, "Oh my gosh, you're singing high, you're singing like high, you're singing threads, silver threads," because my voice would go till there was like nothing left. Yeah.
So who was it then that first noticed that your voice was something a little special?
I think my other grandma, she
Okay.
used to record me all the time, and she would always encourage me and say, sing now, sing now, sing now. And she would press the record button, and she recorded me, and I was doing not only singing, but I would interview myself, actually. I would have my own shows, like I was the star, and then I was in, the interview as well. So I would do both parts again. This would be like a game I do for years. Yeah. But I don't know about special, to be honest with you, because I always felt, being a Norwegian, you're not supposed to be special. If you
Hmm.
we don't have any, like in the US. My kids grew up within the US system and in US schools, and you have show and tell. And
Yeah.
I think that's great. I think that's wonderful to teach a child to be able to talk about things, talk about themselves and how they understand things. But in Norway, that's like a no. You
Oh,
don't
really?
do any, yeah, you don't do any show and tell, particularly not about yourself. You always kind of want to put yourself a little bit down. So even today, it's very much in me that I don't really, I feel always a little intimidated talking about myself, and doing interviews, being on stage, performing. I have huge performance anxiety. So that's just a little bit sad, maybe. It's a little extra stressful when you work within this industry, but it is what it is.
No, that's really interesting, though. I think the cultures that shape us, right? Um, One of the
Yeah.
things you mentioned in your biography is that you're pretty much a citizen of the world. You've been in all these different places. So when did you start traveling? Was it when you were going for music, or did it start first?
It's my traveling started inside my head. I was just a little kid laying on my grandpa's lawn and looking up in the sky and seeing the airplanes. I'd never been on an airplane until I was 12. That's when my first trip with my parents going on vacation. But I always wanted to leave. I wanted to travel. I wanted to go away.
Mm.
My first travels took me, on vacation with my parents, basically. And one of the places was Cyprus. And I just, as a, 14, 15-year-old, I just fell in love with it. And I would just come back here, really just to live here. And it wasn't for music. And so my travels, basically, it was either for work, and it wasn't musical work, because I didn't really, I wasn't so lucky to to let music really be my work until later in life.
Mm.
I worked with other things, yeah, like numbers in an office, the things that I really kind of didn't really want to do, but again, it's how it goes.
Well, we got to pay our dues, right? Not
Yeah,
everyone is as fortunate to have that lucky break. So you
yeah.
obviously you spent time kind of build. So how are you developing your music? Were you taking music lessons, or did you continue to learn on your own?
I started taking music lessons from I think 14, when I took vocal lessons, and then I
Okay.
chose music in high school as well, as a specialty. So I took private lessons several times a week. I was very, very fortunate to have a very, very good vocal teacher, and in school too, in my high school, we were very fortunate, and we would be part of the National Public Radio. We would come in there and perform with their musicians, and yeah, I was very lucky in that sense. And I wanted to do music and to make it a living, but my parents were, I think, a little bit worried. Nah, they could be, this is your hobby, you should make it a hobby, just keep it a hobby, but you got to do something else for a living. And there is a little bit of truth to it, but honestly, I encourage my kids, do whatever you feel that your heart tells you to do. So I didn't maybe start as early as I would have, making it my work, because of that.
I think a lot of us can empathize with that too. My
Yeah.
parents, they were like, "Oh, you should do music." My mom put us in all these music lessons, but you should do medicine as a profession. You shouldn't sing.
There you go. Exactly. That's what my parents said as well. And you want to try to please your parents, I suppose, to a certain
Yeah.
extent. And I felt that they knew better than me, and I just went in that direction. And yeah, I wish, maybe now I'm thinking back, I wish that I hadn't, because I
Hmm.
think I had a lot more guts when I was young, that I could have done a lot more things.
Yeah.
But I gained other experience, I suppose. you know Gotta try to see the positive in things.
That's true. I think um, you get more of you become a well-rounded person, right? You know that there's more to it, and you mentioned you have children, so all of that adds to the person, and then you bring that into your music.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely.
So, can you tell me, when you were doing those early lessons, you mentioned that you could sing high and high and high. So, were you doing classical music, or were you doing some Broadway? What were your early repertoire that you were doing?
Yes. um well, when I was just singing to myself, I was just, my earliest memory is probably being about 4 or 5, and I would sing songs that my mother taught me, and I would
Mhm.
sing the Broadway musicals, and then I would do opera, because my one of my grandmothers, she loved opera, and so I would do whatever opera. But I didn't even know English, so I would just kind of mimic and try to sing words, and make up fantasy Italian. The words didn't mean anything to me at that point, but it
Hmm.
would be anything from, from Norwegian folk songs to Italian operas. Yeah.
And then obviously you went on these travels, so you started picking up different influences. When would you say, Christine, was when your first album, Notes from a Journey, is that really when you started working as a solo artist?
That's when I first wrote my own music, which I think
Okay.
I had inside of me. Yeah, I did. I made my own things up in my head for forever, and that was when I first, got in touch with this fabulous producer, Alex Salzman, and he just my simple piano and my simple vocals that I sent in my recordings, he said, yeah, let's do it. And together, he made his orchestral songs that blew me away. I thought, wow, I wrote this. I couldn't believe it. This is my song. I wrote this. Wow, I can do anything now. So it just gave me a real boost, and I wanted to do more and more. But that's where the financials come in, right? Because you want to do more
Yes.
and more. And then, whoa, it's this much per song, or now I need to get funding from somewhere. And, that restricts you quite a bit, depending on what you want to do and what instrument your main is. Being a vocalist, it's difficult to record without anybody else. And just,
Yeah.
as a piano player, you can do your solo piano, you can do endless solo piano, and all you need is an engineer to record you. And maybe some people don't even need that. But as a vocalist, it's difficult.
Yeah. Did your producer really influence that new age sound, or is that something you'd come to on your own?
Well, he influenced it a little bit, but that's also because at that point I just met my now husband and musical partner, David Lanz, and he was one of the big and is one of the big new age artists. And I think I wanted kind of, I'd went to one of his workshops and I thought, oh, I like new age music, and because it spans anything from chants, and this more kind of yoga type of music to more Vangelis and Yanni and operatic kind of style things. I mean, what is new age really? It's everything. And he just, my producer said, okay, let's do new age. Okay, well, what did I know? So right, let's just call it new age. Yeah. Yep.
I think that's how I feel with classical crossover. Obviously, we focus on the little niche of it, but I think really once you start opening up those borders, the borders, it's just like there's no end, because someone that enjoys classical will also enjoy new age. They'll also enjoy Broadway. So you just have this huge ability to combine all these different things and create new sounds every time.
Yes, that's what we're trying to do. I did not want to be put in this new age. Now I had an album, right? The first one. And now I was called a new age artist. And I thought, no, well, not really, because I didn't really connect with new age until I went to the US and I met David Lanz, and I started listening to this music in the genre new age. I knew Enya, I knew Yanni, but I didn't really know that it was called new age genre, what genre it was, because I would just listen to whatever. It would be world music, it could be, So I tried to kind of work my way out of that. And I have been classically trained because like I mentioned, in high school and with my vocal teachers in Norway and Sweden, that was always classical and it was always opera. So, that was what counted. You started with the German Lieder, the songs, and then you went on to Puccini and the operas. And so I've been through all of that as a student. And I thought, oh, well, it's nice to sing like that too. And I thought I wanted to do something more classical. And I guess that's, that's where we are, classical crossover. Yeah.
Well, tell me, you mentioned your husband, and you two have been working together. You did a couple albums. So you did Forever Christmas. Oh, my screen is stuck here, but Forever Christmas.
Love. Yes. When we first met.
So tell me about working with someone. Obviously, you'd started writing music on your own, but what is it like now composing together?
Yes, that is a very good question, a very interesting question, because I could answer it in a variety of ways depending on my mood. It's not, it's there's good and there's bad. It's not always so easy for me, I think, because David was well known, particularly within his genre. He was very well known. And so whatever we would write together, it was always referred to as him writing it. And
Mm.
I would sing and he would write, and still is. And of course, I just can't get over feeling a little bit like, hey, I also write sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's a little bit of the negative, I would say, that he kind of gets the credit. The positive is, of course, that since he was already in the industry, maybe it helped open doors for me as well. And I'm quite sure it did, because, you know, now you had a name and promoters would more easily take you on because people knew David Lanz. And of course, the fact that he plays the piano very well helps, because my piano playing was never really great. It was my second instrument after vocal, but I can play it a little bit, but it's more difficult for me to compose if I don't have someone to just say, yeah, let's go here and here, and he would just
Yep.
he will automatically pick up on it, and he'll play the right chords and, you know, to my melody. So that's the great part, definitely.
So tell us a little bit about your albums together, and then your latest release, which was Ave Maria, a new version of Ave Maria.
Yes. Our albums together started off with a Christmas album. I guess because we were both so eager to try to make music together, and it was the right time of year. It was summer, and we're just like, ooh, let's just, you know, put together something here. And it went super fast, and we were lucky, and we got it released just in time for Christmas in November, I think, from what I recall. And it's actually one of my most popular albums at this point. And then Silhouettes of Love followed that, and it's, you know, it's our own compositions. 99%. It was love songs. We tried to venture a little bit outside the new age, because I am maybe not so new age. You can hear it still in the way I compose, that I have a little bit more classical. I like it more
Mm.
like on the dot, whereas David loves jazz. He's very much a jazz dude. So if I sing something very classical and I want it to be like a, you know, like an aria, for example, he will just kind of jazz it up, and then we have a little bit of an argument, and we meet usually. And the next album is also going to be together, apart from one that he works in, which is a solo piano. But we have one together now, which is going to be different, because we have Kurt Bester, fabulous arranger and producer in Utah. He's amazing, and he's putting together these songs for us that we create the bass. I find prayers, Latin prayers, like Gloria in Excelsis, the Lord's Prayer in Italian, and we put music and we rearrange a little bit the old prayers to fit into our music. We make new sounds and melodies to these prayers,
Mm.
and we wanted to put it together. And Ave Maria is part of that. It's going to be part of that album. We want to go in that direction, neoclassical, classical crossover for sure.
It is so stunning, and I feel like Ave Maria has been done obviously many times, especially by Bach,
Yeah,
Schubert. So to hear it in a new way, I think fans will absolutely love. I know I did. So very
thank you.
excited.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy that you like that. It's very close to my heart. I mean, I grew up in church, within church, with my mom and my grandpa, and we'd go to church and we'll hear all these songs, and they would mostly be beautifully performed as well in church, you know. and it's put a mark in me. It's part of my heart to express prayers, which is hopes, which is, always searching for something, for a good, for help, or maybe for thanking, which maybe more of us forget to do in the end. But it's close to my heart, and I hope, and I'm very glad you enjoyed it, and I hope a lot of people will enjoy all these new songs that we're doing. There are duets. We're working with John Risen, who is a America's Got Talent, finalist. And yeah, we have a lot of faith in this new music we're doing.
I love it. Yeah. And of course, we love John here. He's such a big supporter of the crossover genre.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, indeed. So we have our next release is Caruso, which is with John, and it's rarely been done as a duet. So we have a new arrangement, and I just love it. So I do it with John, David on the piano, and Kurt Bester behind the arrangement. Beautiful strings, and I hope people will love it as much as we do.
I'm absolutely sure they will. What a treat it's been to talk to you, Kristin. So you mentioned Caruso will be the next single coming out, so we'll stay tuned for that. And then the album to follow soon as well. Is that right?
Yes, the album will come just after Christmas. That's the plan.
Well, thank you. We'll definitely be tuned in. We'll do a review when it comes out. Thank you again so much, Kristin, for chatting with me today.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
And keep making your wonderful music because I love listening to it.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. We'll talk soon. Thank you, Kristin. Bye.
Yeah, bye. Bye.